play the video. The lights. Thank you. Yep.
All our agents are currently busy. Please hold the line. And are you still waiting?
The video is not playing. Eyes locked forcefully. Synthetic fluorescent liquid patterns appear glowing in coal black surface above the thin skin.
This call may be recorded for training purposes and customer research. We cannot tell.
Clutched vertebra, the body compressed in bed sheets as conserved meat in a can, vacuum sealed, salted, airless, eyes locked forcefully, hard to fall asleep, hard to stay asleep, peroxided in wakefulness.
Awake.
Waiting is like insomnia, waiting to sleep. Coerced vigilance bleached in awareness around oneself, about oneself.
Welcome to the Immigration and Naturalization Service. For information or to submit an application, all our agents are still occupied.
Waiting turns
Thank you for your
epidermic,
patience.
inscribed in the body, etched in the skin, surfacing in the gaps between permeable membranes of the landscape of my hands. Valley patterns captured on the impression of a fingerprint, left by friction ridges, mapped, visibilized, quantified, and inventorized in centralized repositories of biometric databanks.
For biometrics or to collect.
The skin is
Do you
reached
or your family member have the nationality of it?
to produce friction.
Please hold.
Friction aids in
Hold the line.
grasping and walking. The raised ridges of the palmar surface of the hands are unique and do not undergo any natural changes, except growth from fetal until decomposition. Still, the body breathes, sweats, urinates, swallows, ejaculates, menstruates, cries.
And are you still waiting for a decision? Please hold the line.
Bodies and fingerprints, retina patterns, faces, hand measurements transformed into machine-readable text. Height, weight,
Name,
skin
sex,
color, hair
birth
color,
date,
facial
first
or
name,
bodily
no
distinguishing
mother's
marks. Hosted inside an
nose,
easily
nose,
flammable
facial
artifact
hair, ears.
of 50 green pages,
All
binded
agents are
solidly
currently busy.
in numerical order under a dark red cherry color cover.
All our agents are still occupied.
A rectangle measuring 9 by 11 centimeters. A rectangle
Passports
3 by
are
2
deformed
meter,
bodies.
my room, 2.8 meter, high ceiling, 156 centimeters, me, breathing solid liquid oxygen, air so damp that water drips off ceiling into my skin. Bored in awareness. My room, a waiting room, lingering in absorbed concentration for the host, to let me in.
All our agents are currently busy. Busy. And are you still waiting for a decision? Please hold. Thank you for your patience.
Patience. Patience comes from the Latin word pati, meaning to suffer. A patient who is most often ill or injured and in need of treatment.
Please call back at a later time.
Waiting in
Later
Albanian
time.
means to presage, prit.
Prita,
Prita as a noun means ambush, to zura, prita, to attack by surprise from a hidden place by people lying in wait in a concealed position, similar to words such as a trap, an attack, a snare, a pitfall, lure, ambuscade. Waiting is being trapped between monotony and daydreaming, waiting to be touched, bathed in wet silence, inflamed by systematic broken promises and betrayed trust between doorkeepers and timekeepers, between your bedroom and waiting halls, between the pulse of your wrist and the ticking, calibrated clocks extended in your skin.
Due to circumstances, we are currently unable to take your call. Please call back at a later time.
To wait is about to be out of sync, not being able to move at the same speed and time as others, delayed from national time, suspended indefinitely in an infinity of waiting
Press
rooms.
4. Press 2. Press 1. Press 3. Press 2. Press. Please call back at a later time. You will now be disconnected.
Rows of uncomfortable raisin chairs placed in front of each other so that you see your mirage needless for a mirror, rendered visible in an external body which breathes the same hanging air right in front of you, with equally underdeveloped lungs, erupting in congested smell of bureaucracy dressed in smiles so fake that make their faces crack. Eyes locked on screens, counting
63
numbers,
B
eyes bending down,
106
checking numbers, bold letter signs
208
from entrance to exit,
A,
pictures not allowed. Keep quiet,
tamed
do not
tongues.
spit.
And do you have a question about living? We have to decide within a legal decision period. Period.
I decline your application. No longer have a right of residence. You are no longer allowed to be. I mean with the European Union, including the European Economic Area. See Article 6, second paragraph of Directive 2008-115 EC. You must return.
Waiting is like insomnia. If you do not get enough sleep, your body may not be able to fend off invaders. Long-term sleep deprivation increases your risk for chronic conditions. It leaves your brain exhausted. You're still waiting, queued up in your own room. So, this is a little test that wait, it's the first time we tried the live version of some pieces of writing and research that we have assembled, and it's based on our continuous research on the spatial implications of citizenship practices. And it tries to oscillate between different waiting rooms, and it looks at its extensions within the domestic space to that of the body architecture itself. So we are going to still continue reading on a text that is built up around two obsessions and two objects of desire, which is that of passports and dreams. Although they are perhaps at first unrelatable objects, our obsession also, as in everything, is to try to kind of knit a map that can possibly make sense of the connection of the two, if there is any. So we will take you along some of the spaces produced by the two. So an obsession is an object of desire. An object of desire is a set of promises that we want someone or something to make to us and make possible for us. They might be seem embedded in a thing, a person, an institution, a touch, a smell, or a dream.
A dream I had on 8th of March 2018. A giant building consists of 3 rings. 2 rings on the side are residential area. The middle one is a secret narrow hallway. For the monitoring 2 of the sides, which are covered by mirror, the supervisor hide inside and observe people's behavior. It's a communal life under control of authority. They make people in couple because no one is special. Everyone is the same. Every couple got a cat because no one is special. I live in outer ring. The ring is a giant room where people live in. It's full of beds where are arranged in a matrix. Everyone is naked because no one is special. My partner is a German woman with blonde hair. She looks like a strong woman. We're sitting on the bed. I'm laying on the wall and looking into the mirror. There's someone looking at us behind the mirror. The room is dark and quiet. I can hear someone whispering dogma in the room. It sounds like coming from the supervisor. The supervisor is a woman in uniform. She looks like 50. She's walking around and checking everyone's behavior. She passed by and kissed me on the chest as a form of encouragement for what I've did so far. And then she walked away. My partner wiped off the kiss with her saliva without saying anything.
Both passports and dreams, as object of desire, implicate cruel relations of hope. For that they trigger a sense of possibility in their being longed for. It is cruel in that it creates attachments to compromised conditions of possibility, the realization of which emerges as either impossible or pure fantasy, or at times perhaps too possible and thus toxic. An enabling object of desire that is equally disabling. Passports are objects because they are in dialogue with other objects, such as papers, ink, stamps, rooms, pockets, hands, fingerprints, other passports, and so on. They are unique to our bodies, created according to our fingerprints, our retina patterns, faces, and hand measurements. Although at large they consist of approximately 40 pages, they are very abstract. Showered with the promise of transparency, they bridge the gap between opaque bodies of their bearers and their material actualization through photos, names, numbers, biometrics, etc. Passports regulate bodies, just like architecture does, for they are architecture. They do so by granting access for certain bodies and not others, or making access difficult for some and evaporate walls for others. In French, the term literally means to pass through a gate or a door. To think about spaces is to think about the kinds of bodies that can inhabit them. Architecture is largely a question of bodily presence. In its etymology, biometrics means the measurement of life. The biological body is transformed into a machine-readable text, which is believed to be more truthful than the speaking persons themselves. Bodies are written, and so they are read, while the booklet is open, both in proximity and at distance. Something about your bones feeling that they're watched, while you are assessed as either unknown or known, wanted or unwanted, legal or illegal. Just like in medicine, the body defined in terms of its genetic profile, nicotine, or medication intake becomes a body that is assessed as either normal or abnormal, as healthy or pathological, as low or high risk. It is not so much about verifying that you are who you say you are, but that you are the right body, the one that yields a match. A biometric system controls movement in and out of space to protect both the space and bodies within it. Security then is an object of desire, creating the condition of possibility for bodies to feel safe so that they can be productive. Things are measured so that they become objects of knowledge. To know means to assess one's capacity for life and futurity, therefore providing its absence for a threat to infrastructures of production, thus the ability of productivity. Producing knowledge about a body or a territory means also constructing the territorial body itself.
The proper map of Taiwan is produced. The first proper map of Taiwan is produced from Dutch colonial government during their settlement in 17th century, while calling the island a very beautiful and fertile land. They state that the indigenous population are lazy and not capable to bringing forth its full value, failing to make Taiwan aborigines to raise crops for sale and make colony profitable. The Dutch first thought of bringing in European settlers to finally decided to encourage Chinese immigration to Taiwan. As one Dutch governor said, Chinese are the only bees on Formosa that give honey. Formosa, which means beautiful, it was the name given by Portuguese colonies to Taiwan prior to Dutch colonization. The government announced a 3-person, 1 buffalo policy. Anyone who immigrate to Taiwan to open up a new land, to give an assigned amount of silver, and every three of them receive a water buffalo, were brought to the island from Indonesia. At the time was under colonial rules of Dutch East Indies. In order to distinguish Chinese settlers from Chinese pirates and other unwanted body, Dutch colonial government issued identity document that would become a key feature of Dutch rule, the resident permit, which become known as the head tax, hoofgeld. The resident permit was issued identify, protect, and enable productive body among Chinese settlers, and avoid disruption to extractive economic of the island, where the land, its people, plants, and animal are thought as extractable data and the natural resources for accumulation.
The issuing of a residence permit assigns you to a specific kind of story. This story is generated by the state, for which it claims exclusivity in its crafting. The bodies then are involved in rites and rituals that repeatedly perform and prove their absence of threat to disrupt this story. If failure to perform occurs, then this produces a delay at best and a rejection at worst. The cartography that the visa regime asks bodies to navigate the world through is that of perpetual confession. This confessionary logic urges subjects to willingly present their bodies and data for scrutiny. To bypass confession is to have an alibi. In a way, ours has been our artistic practice. Just like a trickster, performing productivity through artistic practice has been a form of trickery. Performance is time-based and time is held hostage. Therefore, bodies are asked to submit to compulsory waiting. The desire for waiting to end is what keeps a state of cruelty in sustained hope that after the waiting ends, things will change. Waiting is a specific experience of time. In the words of anthropologist Sharem Khosravi, waiting divides the world today as between those who are forced into conditions of waiting and those who impose it. Imposed waiting is an exercise of power over other people's time. Time is more than often associated with success and money, and waiting is therefore symbolized as waste, emptiness, and uselessness. Waiting then is a theft based on stolen time.
A dream I had in the autumn of 2019. I went to a lecture. Everyone was sitting on the bench and waiting. The lecture was a propaganda about being a vampire so then you can have a wing. I secretly can fly, so I don't really care. After a couple of months, everyone is flying, and I feel so boring.
Waiting rooms are rooms for the use of persons such as patients who are waiting, where they sit or stand until the event or appointment for which they are waiting begins. In the Dutch integration exam, or otherwise called inburgering, which is an essential part of the performance rituals to prove one's ability of productivity and futurity within the nation's citizenship policies, most of the exercises or assignments are staged in waiting rooms, where you interact through dialogue with either the administration for which you are waiting for, or other people waiting, just like you, whether it's at the GP, municipality, social housing administration, insurance, and so on. Waiting is given as a form of test, but also an anticipation for the unavoidable ecology of waithood, which one is asked to engage, pass through, and leverage their own time. Ordering of bodies in waiting rooms is organized by means of queuing. Queuing is a line of people or objects in which one at the front end is dealt with first, the one behind dealt with next, and so on, and which newcomers join at the opposite end, the back. Different types of waiting room use different methods to queue up. Queuing is a phenomenon extensively analyzed in the study of queuing theory, which is the mathematical study of waiting lines, or queues. A queuing model is constructed so that queue lengths and waiting time can be predicted. Exhausting into an image, queues illustrate who is waiting and who imposes waiting on others. A calculated and precise prolonged waiting. People constantly delayed and sent back to the front end, whose time is deemed less worth. Queues are performed within limited spaces. For waiting to be contained, the ordering of bodies in the space they are forced to wait in is architecture. Sometimes that architecture is your own bedroom.
I had a dream on 16 December 2017. I was a hostess, attractive and innocent. The dream was in cartoon texture. Everything was blurry. Our boss told me there is a guy who wants to talk to me, and I can recognize his face. I went to him and started talking some funny shit. Then I gave him a kiss. He gave me a pile of gambling chips. The chips were blue, transparent in the middle. I picked one of the chips. It was 435 euro. I had around 15 chips. Then I was looking into the ceiling, thinking about a kiss for a pile of 435 euro. The ceiling was like a church. Then I saw my friend was standing on a ladder measuring. I made a mark on each corner of the blocks. He's going to draw colorful dragons on the ceiling. And I was just standing there holding the chips in my hand, thinking, should I go to help him or not?
Go back to waiting. Waiting is not a passive state. On the contrary, it causes a state of high vigilance. To wait is to be awake. In the interpretation of dreams, Freud referred to dreaming as nothing more than a particular form of thought made possible by the state of sleep. To be able to dream, one needs to sleep, and sleep is an uncompromising interruption of the theft of time. In the Book of Sleep by Wardani, he states that the difference between the waking and the sleeper is that the former tends to preserve his social body and reaffirm its boundaries, while the latter moves to blur the body, to muddy its purity by opening it to others. A desire to dream is the body's break free from the clutches of its map, a forged space, perhaps an act of fabrication against the language of government agencies and their monopoly for storytelling. So what happens when that waiting ends? How does the body unlearn its labor to enact a story it has embedded it for so long? Does it even want to? Does the spine get straightened back? How to coordinate out of a prolonged queuing? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Comments? Reactions?
Do you know the artist? The name is Chassol. Because when you can start the conversation, this artist, he's a singer and play music, and the album the name is Big Sun, and the music is one repetition about one catastrophe. And I feel when you can start this way has a lot, como fala camada? Layers. Mm-hmm. And this is very nice for connect. And I think and I feel I need a more image for these poems you can start talking, because it has a lot image in the poem, and I want to see what do you elaborate in this.
To visualize.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what this performative reading and this juxtaposition of texts that you wrote before with the image and with, the sound. If I understood correctly, this is something that you're just trying out. Mm-hmm. What did it open up or generate that wasn't there before, maybe? If anything.
I don't know, maybe you should start. I'm always the first starting, so.
I think this first time we do like live performance and kind of have this intensity, and also somehow there's audience there, and how do we react? And also when we are making this, also audience is always there, because you're creating something too for audience. It's something new for us.
Yeah, I mean, we because it has been very dry. I mean, we also have talked with you before. It has been very, like, sometimes we, especially for this project, we have been writing quite a lot and also producing imagery, which is mostly documentary in its nature. So when we have been thinking a lot, like, especially in terms of this architecture of waiting, and how much, reflecting a bit on personal experience, how much our bedroom was this, constantly felt as this suspended space and time and stuck in waiting. So, so we wanted to kind of a bit spatially recreate that moment of also interacting with these technologies of patience, through phone calls, extended phone calls, and but also at the same time, how this invasion of the private space leaves, in a way, only the dream as the only space which kind of disobeys, in terms of how even the body constantly is measured and mapped within these same technologies. And I have to say, these dreams are all from chem. Like I don't remember my dreams, but and also they are all from the same period of this prolonged waiting. So yeah, this is why we also today wanted to kind of talk through the interaction of these two objects, of the passport and the dream. As so, I don't know, we were trying to recreate this room as a waiting room and try it through this medium. I don't know if it worked, but yeah, that was the aim.
Yeah, because last time we spoke, I mean, there was this kind of looking back at the practice in a self-reflexive way and then thinking of which formats could, you know, convey this research in a different way than what you've done before. Mm-hmm. And I think to some extent this was that in a way. Yeah. So I think it generated something there. But that's just how I perceived it from watching.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask about like the texture of the performance. I was just thinking about these lights and how lights in waiting room are quite different and bright and cold. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's not I was just like, it was kind of nice that they weren't recreating that because, you know, mm-hmm. you don't necessarily want to put your audience through the same horror. Mm-hmm. But I thought that it was like really something about like, like how much do you want to push the coldness mm-hmm. of patients like into the audience and then bring it back, or like, mm-hmm. have you thought of that, like kind of playing with cold and comfort?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I mean, not for this specific time, because for us was more like this like talking from the bedroom. that was, but in our like the materials that we have mapped in the research, especially through personal archives of photographs. These elements actually, the light, the metal, the raising chair, the like there's a lot of design elements that we are looking into that we think we might use, at least in terms of presentation. Yeah.
Also, the visual is the 3D scan of our room. You can recognize, and like when I'm making the animation, it's like you're somehow trapped in that room, and that's the room where we sleep, where we work, like we were just living there. And then like very slowly you're like roaming the room, and it's always in the room in a very small pace, kind of creating this trapped and slow kind of, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. Well, now we give the floor to Musa. Musa, do you